Alright, we are back with a new video, and today we'll be doing a preseason power ranking for Big Brother Canada 10. We got the cast reveal back on Wednesday, and we'll be starting the season this Wednesday, March 2nd. And like what I do with these other shows, I like to do a preseason power ranking where I rank how likely it is that these players will win the game based on what I think they'll be capable of. And for the most part, I got a good sense of what their personalities will be like, and through that made it more possible to do this power ranking, even if the actual interviews were a bit shorter than I would have liked. However, the other challenge that I had with this list is I'm not sure how good strategically a lot of these players will be. I mean, it's unclear whether they're actual fans of the show, and through that, it's hard to tell how much game knowledge that they have coming into this. But I did my best, and I'll be giving my general thoughts and first impressions on these players. And with that, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the list. So, starting off the list at number 16, the person I think has the least likely chance to win the season off the bat is Stephanie. Now, Stephanie was a bit interesting. She's 26, she's a child and youth worker. She talks about wanting to play a strong social game, says she'll clash with people that are more laid back and aren't as social as she is, admits to being a big personality, and admits that she needs to tone things down. She says she wants to be in a showmance, claims she'll be a game move, but it doesn't make too many promises on that end. And I'm not feeling great about Stephanie. She's definitely someone that talks about being outspoken and relies on her social game. However, I'm not getting the best sense from her strategically. She wants to be in a showmance, which isn't ideal, especially when there are a few people in this cast that want that. I don't think it's a guarantee she's an early boot. However, I did notice that a lot of the other players talked about how they don't particularly like people that are loud or outspoken, and Stephanie definitely fits that bill. So I feel like she could have some trouble earlier on. And I wouldn't be surprised if she was an early boot. However, even if she's able to get past some of those early rounds, I don't think she's necessarily in it for a super deep run. So again, she's a very mixed bag for me. I can't really see her winning the game. And because of that, I have her here at number 16. Now we're moving on to number 15. And we have another player who I don't have that much confidence in, but I feel like they'll be slightly competitive in competitions. And here we have Gino, and Gino's interesting. He's 28, he's our firefighter. He wants to go in nice and soft, analyze the competition, eliminate the weak links, and build a solid alliance within different groups. And then once his plan is organized, he's in the right place at the right time. He plans to really crank it up in competitions, and he really wants to be a comp beast. He says his strategy is not to be too aggressive, as he could come off as intimidating, which to be fair is a bit warranted. He really wants to assess the house first before turning it on. He says he'll clash with negative people, and that's something. And he's indifferent about showmances. And overall, I'm not feeling too great about Gino. He is someone I think will be very strong physically and probably win a bunch of comps. However, he will also be a massive threat down the stretch. And considering I don't know how effective he'll be socially or strategically, I can't have him too much higher. And I know that there are other people who I think will also be threats down the stretch. It's just that with those people, I have a better sense of what they'll be like socially and strategically, whereas I feel like Gino will only be focused on competitions. And while he may try to make efforts in other areas of the game, I feel like he will mainly be seen as this big physical guy that should be taken out sooner rather than later. So because of that, I can't have Gino too high, and because of that, I'm here at number 15. Now moving on to number 14, and we have another player that I don't think has a lot of potential, although they could definitely prove me wrong. And here we have Summer. And Summer's interesting. I mean, she's 25, she's fun employed, and she talks a lot about maintaining strong strategic relationships. She wants to put God and herself first with every decision she makes. And she says her best strategy is to have no strategy, as you don't know what you're gonna get, which is something. She says she wants to be open minded. She says she'll clash with people that talk too much or manipulate her. And overall, she definitely has a lot of energy and is someone I think will play hard. I just don't know if she's going to play well. So it's hard to assess her overall potential. I mean, I get that she says no strategy going in is a good thing, which she's right to a degree in the sense that, you're not going to know who you're going to be playing with and what they're going to be looking for in assessing threats. However, it's also a very easy excuse if you don't know the game that well and you don't really know what you're going to be doing. So again, it's sort of a mixed bag there. So because of that, I feel like it's sort of hard to assess her potential in the game and I had to put her here at number 14. Now we're moving on to number 13, and the next couple people are all people I think are high variance in the sense that I could see them being early boots, but I could also see them making a pretty deep run. And I feel like this person sort of encapsulates that pretty well. We have Marty. He's 43 years old, the oldest person on the cast. He's a fraud investigator. He talks about staying flexible, reading and reacting to what is happening, win every comp, be true to his word until it's time to make a move, and backstab if he needs to, but hopefully land their game. Says his strategy is to be good socially and physically. He calls himself a super fan. He clashes with fake personalities. And overall, again, Marty fits this high variance category for me. I mean, I don't love how much he talks about wanting to be a comp beast, considering he is the oldest person on the cast, and there being multiple people here that also wants to be comp beasts. Now, it could surprise me, but still, it's not a great strategy to be putting a lot of your focus into the physical aspect of the game. I also have the sense that he, like I said, could be a high variance player, someone that could either struggle early and be an easy target, or skate on by and hopefully be a power player. And the thing about Marty, and the reason why he's lower than these other high variance players, is that even if he does lean towards the high end of things and makes a deep run, I feel like he will be targeted towards the end of the game. I could see him easily being perceived as this big threat that will win a jury vote, and through that people would want to get rid of him, which would essentially force him to have to win out. And it's just, I don't know how capable he is of winning out, which is a big question mark for me. And of course, him being a high variance player, the potential for him being an early boot is a big reason I have him here at number 13. Now we're moving on to number 12, and we have a very interesting person to talk about. Here we have Kevin. And Kevin is a fascinating figure. He's 28. He's a sales engineer. He says he wants to lie, cheat, and steal to pit the other house guests against each other, be the snake in the grass, make them laugh as I stab him in the back. Says he'll lower his threat level early on by being entertaining. He wants to find people he trusts and target everyone else. Says he'll be tough to get to the end, but insists he has decent control of his emotions to navigate any twists given. Says he'll clash with anyone from small towns or have little life experience. He also doesn't do well with fake personalities, and overall it's pretty clear Kevin will be really entertaining. He's someone that's playing it up for the camera in the interviews. He wants to be perceived as his villain, and a big reason I have him as high as I do is because there is a chance that this could all just be an act and that he'll be more reasonable once he's inside the house. Even so, he's definitely high variance. I mean, again, I could see him easily blowing up his game and being an early boot as a result. Like, he'll be like a fun crash and burn story, but I'm also reserving some doubt that he could actually be effective in the game. And if he is someone that tones it down and plays more reasonably while playing at the villain in the DR, then I feel like he could be a very threatening person in the game. But the reason I have him here at number 12 is because, again, I feel like he fits that high variance. I feel like it's uncertain at this time whether he will be able to play the game that he proclaims to play, or at least play the game that I think he'll play once he lowers his guard a bit. But for now, with this uncertainty, I feel like 12 is about as high as I can put him. Now moving on to number 11, we have another high variance player, and we actually have one of the two non-binary players in the season. We have Jessica, and Jessica is an interesting figure on the season. They're 35, they're a visual artist. They talk about being fluid and flexible, react in a way that creates the fewest repercussions, and be a support system for as many people as possible. You know, they want to connect with as many people as possible amidst being a super fan, and I feel like they will be pretty good strategically, and I like hearing them talk during their interview. Even so, I'm not sure how effective they'll be socially. They seem like someone that could be targeted early for being perceived as a threat, as a pretty intelligent figure, especially if they struggle to build bonds early on. They also don't seem to be the best physically, so I worry they won't be able to win comps if they find themselves in a hole later on. Even so, they're able to get past those initial rounds. I feel like they could be effective strategically, but for now I feel like number 11 is about as high as I can put them. Now we're moving on to number 10, and I feel like these next couple of people are people that I feel like will be alright within the game, but I don't have a ton of evidence to suggest that they'll actually win or be super dominant. But I feel like 10 is a good place to put Melina, and Melina is interesting as well. She's 29, she's an artist. She says she'll have to wait and see, but she'll be the girl to make this a woman's game, and that's something. Her goal is to find a close ally and run the game. She'll clash the most with most personalities, but is search she'll play well enough to where that won't be an issue, which, okay. Talks a lot about making this a women's game, and overall, I think she'll be okay. I mean, admittedly, I don't have much evidence of her being that great, and, like she talks a lot about making this a women's game, suggesting she might try to start an all-women's alliance that could get her in trouble if she doesn't handle it properly. But aside from that, I think she'll be fine enough. I mean, if she plays without putting herself too far in the forefront, I think she'll make a decent run, but I don't have too much confidence in her ability to actually win the game, and because of that, I have her here at number 10. Now we're moving on to number 9, and we have someone who, again, is pretty similar to Melina in my eyes, and we have Betty. And again, Betty reminds me a lot of Melina. She's 31, she's a human resources manager, says her strategy is to find a group of or person to connect with, perfectly on day 1 or 2. She wants to have a killer alliance and play a rock solid social game while working so hard in competitions, which is something, I guess. I mean, she says she wants to play a strong physical and social game, says she'll clash the most with egotistical people or people that mansplain. And overall, I think Betty will be alright socially. I don't get the sense that she'll be that cutthroat, however. I'm not sure how much of a fan she is or how strong she'll be strategically. So while I don't think she'll be an early boot, I don't think she's interested that much into the strategic game. Like I said, she talks a lot about doing well in comps as well as just trying to rely a lot on her social game. So with that concern in mind, I feel like 9 is a good place to put her on this list. Now we're moving on to number 8, and I have no idea what to do with this person, and I'm sure some people don't know what to do with them either. And here we have Moose, and Moose is, well, Moose. He's 24, he's a content creator. Says his strategy is to befriend one to 2 people who he can trust the entire time and have them infiltrate other groups, and while keeping his alliance a secret. Says he'll clash with people that try to be a big personality that tries to put him down, which didn't really love that answer, but whatever. Says he isn't looking for a showmance but wouldn't reject one if it presented itself, which is something. And overall, I think he's pretty affable for the most part, and I think I'll at least play strategically. I mean, he definitely sounds like the more cutthroat people in this game. I'm just not sure how effective he'll be at that. It's unclear whether he's even watched the show before or whether he has that sound of a strategic mind. But again, I think there's definitely some good elements to his game. I think he'll be all right socially, and he should skate on by through these early rounds, unless he just makes himself, like instantly hated to where he could be an easy boot. Like I could see him going down a more disastrous route. But for now, I feel like with all this in mind, I feel like 8 is about where he should be. So because of that, I have him here at number 8. Now we're moving on to number 7, and I feel like these next 2 people are all people who, again, are sort of high variance, like the people we talked about earlier. However, the difference here is that whereas I felt like some of those lower people are people that will either be early boots or people that make deep runs, I feel like these next 2 people are people who will probably make it decently far, maybe be the leader of their alliance, but will be targeted later on, either due to being out in front or being a physical threat. But at number 7, we have the other non-binary player this season. We have Jay. And Jay's an interesting figure. They're 28. They're a theater director. They call themselves a friendly person. They're going to use their charm to make people not see them as a threat, but as an ally. Like they say they'll treat all the people well. Says they'll clash with fake personalities. Says they are quirky and authentic. And overall, I feel like Jay will be a big personality and someone that will connect well socially. However, I'm not too sure how competent they are strategically, though I assume they'll at least be base level. My biggest concern, however, is that they could get too out in front and emerge as a threat later on, like especially with how they want to be this big social presence. I could see them sort of being targeted through that way, and the question at that point is whether they'll be able to win comps to get them out of that situation. I think they'll definitely be somewhat successful, but I'm not sure if it'll be enough to get them all the way to the end. So that's sort of an issue I have with them, and a big reason I had them here at number 7. Now we're moving on to number 6, and we have the other person I think will be a big threat. However, I feel like this person definitely has more potential to win out, to get out of sticky situations. But here we have Kyle Moore, and this is a very hilarious casting pick. So, in case you don't know, the thing about Kyle Moore is that on BB Can 9, the last season, there was another player named Kyle Moore. And when it was announced that Kyle Moore was going to be on the cast for BB Can 9, this Kyle Moore was assumed to be the Kyle Moore from last season. And people started, paying attention to him more. And the thing is, he had never watched BB Can or even Big Brother before this. But after getting all this attention, he decided to study the game, get more into it, and become this big fan of the show. And now he actually gets to play. So I think that's been pretty cool on production that they recognized this story and decided to take the joke. And again, I feel all right about Callum Moore. I mean, he's 23, he's a podcaster. He originally wants to be overlooked in the house, but realizes that his skill set is better served by approaching the game like chess, move first, attack in the middle, and castle early. He wants to win the first HOH to set the board, and all this is pretty good. He says he never wants to pass up on opportunities. He won't close himself off from anyone. He'll clash with people who are loud and exude superiority. He knows he's already going to be a threat for being strong physically, and overall, I like Kyle a lot. While he admits to being newer to Big Brother as a fan, he really did his research watching all this season. I feel like he's coming in pretty prepared strategically, and I feel like he'll be a pretty well-rounded player. Now, my biggest concern for him is that he might jump out as a big threat, as he does seem aware about this, but that still doesn't prevent him from being a threat. Now, I feel like he can definitely do some stuff to mitigate his threat level, but I feel like if he starts winning a bunch of comps, that he'll start to jump out as a pretty big target. Now, mind you, the reason I have him above Jay here is that I feel like Kyle is more capable of winning those comps if he gets into a difficult situation. But even then, I don't feel too confident about him actually winning the game. I feel like he's just going to be such a massive threat towards the mid game that makes it hard for me to put him too much higher here. So because of that, I have him here at number 6. Now we're moving on to number 5, and I feel pretty good about this player, although there are some question marks. And here we have Haleena, and again, I feel good about Haleena. She's 27, she's a master's student, says she'll play a social game, be the friend, therapist, or whoever it takes for all the house guests to fall in love with her and not see her as a threat. Then she'll be cutthroat when needed, says her strategy is to be under the radar and play a strong social game, says she'll clash with cocky and rude personalities, and overall, I like a lot of her answers, and I feel like she'll be alright socially and physically. Even so, I'm not too sure how she'll be perceived. I mean, she definitely seems to be in the middle of the age group compared to some of these other people. I feel like through that she'll be perceived as having a decent amount of life experience. However, I feel like some of the people we'll be talking about will be more naturally suited to integrate into a majority than Haleena, and probably less likely to be perceived as a threat, because while I think Haleena is probably well suited for the game and probably will prove me wrong, I wouldn't be surprised if she does start to be seen as a target later on. And plus, while she does talk about being cutthroat, I'm not too sure whether she has it in her to be that cutthroat strategically, so we'll really have to see how she does. But on the whole, I do like her, and because of that, I have her here at number 5. Now we're moving on to number 4, and I did feel pretty good about this person after listening to their interview. However, there are still some question marks here, and here we have Tynesha, and I like Tynesha for the most part. She's 32, she's a model. Her strategy is to be the sweet, innocent girl from Montreal, kind of ditzy and clumsy, but listens and observes like a hawk and strikes with a hot knife when the time is right. She says her main strategy is to charm people, says she'll clash with people who are loud and cause trouble. And she talked a lot about her being a mom, and I feel all right about her. I mean, I think she's someone that will do pretty well socially, and I could see her end up in this majority group as this kind of older, kind of more mature person who's still pretty good socially. Now, I'm not entirely sure how good she'll be strategically, so we'll definitely have to see about that. And obviously, physically, I think she'll be all right. But we'll definitely have to see with Tanisha a bit. But so far, I'm feeling pretty good about her. I like how she'll fit well into this cast, and unless I'm completely wrong and blows up her game, I think she should make a decent run here. So because of that, I have her here at number 4. Now we're moving on to number 3. We have someone pretty similar to Tanisha, and here we have JC Lin. And JC Lynn's quite a bit younger than Tanisha. She's 24. She's a social media manager. She plans to use her endearing and empathetic personality to create strong connections with both sides of the house. She likes to create a Final Four alliance with those she trusts the most. And if a showmance presents herself, she'll go for it if it feels beneficial for her game, which is something, I guess. And she talks about winning competitions as well. She says she'll align with a guy to win comps and do her dirty work earlier on before turning up physically. So that's something at least. She says she doesn't clash with people that take life too seriously, which is something. And overall, again, I like JC Lynn. I think, like Tanisha, I just have a good vibe. Just listening to her, I feel like she'll integrate well into the game. I don't love some of her answers. I don't love how she's open to a showmance, which could make her targeted, especially considering how few people in this game are looking for showmances. However, I think even then, I feel like Gino, someone else that's looking for a showmance, could be targeted over her, so that's something at least. And I feel like, again, if she's able to get past some of those early hiccups, I feel like she could do relatively well. And plus, I think her attitude towards winning comps, while not my favorite thing in the world, is something that will give her an edge over a lot of other people in her archetype, particularly over people like Tanisha. So that's a big reason I have her this high on the list. However, I feel like the top two people are people I just feel like are more well-rounded players on the whole, and players I just have more confidence in getting towards the end and winning at the end. So because of that, I have JC Lynn here at number 3. Now we're moving on to number 2, and I feel like this is my definitive top 2. It's just a matter of the order. However, number 2, I decided to go with Hermon, and I like Hermon a lot. I mean, he's 29, he's an auto sales manager. He says he's going to make the house guests fall in love with him, then go for HOH week 2, which is something, and hopes to have an alliance or final 2 by then. Says he'll clash with abrasive and entitled personalities, doesn't rule out showmances, and overall, I do feel pretty strong about Hermon. I think he has the makings of a pretty well-rounded player, and think he's less likely to be targeted than someone like Kyle. However, his actual interview answers are a bit more mixed. I mean, I don't love that he rules out showmances, but I think the bigger thing that gives me worry is the fact that he says he's not going to try to win the first HOH. Now, given the track record from recent seasons, winning first HOH has been crucial as it allows you to set up the initial power structure, and while it doesn't always work like with Frenchie from BB23, generally speaking, you should want to win the first HOH, so him not even wanting that is a concern. But aside from that, I feel pretty good about him. I feel like he'll be pretty good socially, he'll be good enough strategically even without that blemish, and I think he'll be good enough physically to where he won't be perceived as a threat. But I feel like the number 1 person has less red flags based on their interview answers, on top of being a pretty well-rounded player themselves. So because of that, I have Hermon here at number 2. And now on number 1, the person I think has the best shot of winning BB Can 10 going into it is Josh. And I like Josh a lot. I mean, he's 28, he's a pediatric resident. He wants to establish a strong alliance first thing in the house, ideally with someone who's older, as they may seem as less of a threat and not someone people will initially think of aligning with. He wants to start in a larger alliance until closer to jury, where he will then separate himself with big moves. He'll keep a close alliance and be a competition beast, but with enough charm to be less threatening. He's definitely a lot more detailed with the strategy than a lot of other people, which again could work, but isn't, a be all end all. Says his strategy is to connect with a lot of people, says he'll clash with disrespectful people. And I like the way that he talks. I mean, I feel like he is someone who, like Hermon, has the makings of a very well-rounded player. I feel like he is good physically. I feel like he'll be good socially. And I think he's good enough strategically to where, again, I feel like he'll be very effective in the house. I think he will be pretty effective at lowering his threat level. And unlike Hermon, who says he doesn't want to win the first HOH for whatever reason, I feel like Josh doesn't do anything to give me those red flags the same way Hermon does. And I think he probably will try to make some of those better strategic decisions. So because of that, I like Josh a lot. I feel very good about him going in. And I feel like he is the person that is most likely to win BB Can 10. And there we go. That will do it for this video. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe. Now, like the other series I cover, I plan to update these power rankings weekly once we see what's actually happening in the game. Stay tuned for that. I am covering other shows like Amazing Race, which is wrapping up, but also Australian Survivor, which is ongoing, as well as Survivor 42, which should be starting a week after BB Can 10 starts. So stay tuned for that. There's a lot of stuff coming, so I'm pretty excited for that. But for now, that is the video. See ya.